Speaking of China, you know the story on the ground better than anybody here can tell in the U.S. So what are the main indicators you're looking at in terms of whether China's heading for a disaster or averting a disaster?
Well, I don't think it's either averting a disaster or heading for a disaster. What I think we're going to have is a decade or more of much, much lower growth. And the thing that's really driving that, which is what drives it in every country that's had an investment-driven growth miracle, has been followed by a lost decade of very, very low growth, sometimes a debt crisis, although in the case of China, I don't think we'll have a debt crisis. But I do expect growth rates to slow significantly, and the key thing to watch is the growth rate of debt, and I think everybody's very worried about that.
So you want to watch for debt to not be growing too much
Exactly right.
more from here. But you think that a rebalancing does need to occur, and seeing slightly lower growth in late 2013 would be a good thing. You'd actually be more concerned with slightly higher growth.
Yes, because if you look at what happened last year, in the first half of the year, growth rates slowed significantly. In the second half of the year, it seems like Beijing got very nervous and they stepped on the credit accelerator and growth rates took off again. By the end of last year and the beginning of this year, credit was growing faster than it had ever been growing before in Chinese history. So the consequences are pretty obvious then. When credit is growing very quickly, you'll get more GDP growth, and when it's slowing down, you'll get less GDP growth. What was important about last year is that for the first time, China may have begun the real rebalancing that it needs to do. But all of that occurred in the first half of the year under conditions of much slower growth. And I think that that's not an accident. That's necessary. Very rapid Chinese growth is driven by the same mechanisms that create the worsening imbalances. So a rebalancing of China necessarily is going to result in much lower growth for many, many years.